Good morning, good evening, and a good afternoon. This is Nathaniel Kempton Productions here today, and welcome back to Cowerbridge Junction. On the agenda for today, we have point motors, wiring, improving locomotive performance, and a layout update. Let's get started. Not too long ago, I made some changes to the track work on the layout to allow the operation of a cassette-type storage yard. More about that later. The important part for now is the track work. To gain access to the storage cassettes, I needed to install a point on the curve underneath Percy's Bridge and the town scene. This works very well, gives clear access to all the trains that use the cassette system. But problems arose when I realised that all of the trains stored in this area would only be able to run on the outermost mainline track. Not the end of the world by any means, but it did limit running sessions somewhat. So I went back to the drawing board, or in this case, any rail. I simply just added another kickback junction in the fiddle yard at the rear of the main layout. This now allows trains to exit the cassette system, wrong roading for a short time, and then negotiating the point work, and then transferring to the inside main line, and then carrying on in the correct direction, thus giving all tracks access to the cassettes, and giving the cassettes access to all of the main running lines. Okay. So here we are over at the layout, ready to go. I have the point motors for this project, Gauge Master SEEP PM2s, hopefully you can see those there, in the new packaging from Gauge Master, which is quite exciting. I also have the necessary point decoder. Here it is. This is the Rails Connect version. And then I've got my box of track work stuff, track pins, this point motor alignment tool specifically designed for the SEEP point motors from Gauge Master that I use. I forget where I get this from. If I remember, link in the description. But I'll show you how to use this in a bit. 1 or a 2mm drill bit. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up or not. Oh yeah, not bad. There it is. For drilling the hole in the tie bar. So I've got my grandfather's old Dremel multi-tool from 1980, 90 something. I need to put the drill bit in it. At the moment it's got a broken still got the broken cutting disc in it that I used not long ago. So I'll just I'll have to put this in off camera. You'll just have to take my word for it that I'm actually doing it. Let's give this a go. Might have to zoom out a little bit. There we go. Well, that definitely works, eh? Right, so let's show you this alignment tool. Right, no idea how well you're going to be able to see this, but if I push this tool up to the point, hopefully you can see the point blades move around. If I put my other hand on the point blades and move the tool back, you can see what it does is it holds the point exactly in dead center. So all of the holes are all in perfect alignment for attaching the point motor. So I'll drill through these holes here. This will be hard to film, So you'll just have to bear with me and take my word for it. So as you saw, that was about as difficult as it looked. I've actually got a big shelf above this part of the layout, which makes this quite difficult. But as you can see, the holes went through. So now I'll just repeat this on the point furthest away from the camera. See if I can get an angle on that. Ooh, there it is. I shan't film this process, it's the same as this one and it's hard to film. So I'll join you once the once the holes have been drilled. Okay, so we are under the layout now and hopefully you can see these 3 holes just up here. And if I pan this way, somewhere there should be some more. Oh, there they are. Just up there. So, back up to the top. All of the holes are now drilled. It was a little bit difficult with this shelf in the way, but it's got lights on it, so it made a little bit easier. I need to drill the holes in the tie bar, or for the tie bar, a little bit wider because the drill is only a millimetre or so in diameter. Through this here, you can see where my middle finger is here, and it needs to be a minimum of about 8 millimetres in diameter. So now I've got to go and get my big drill. So I've got the big drill, and I've also got just a set square right angle thing. This is a crappy little one. It's not perfect, but it does the job. And simply going to remove, hopefully you can see a track pin just here. Hopefully you can see a track pin just there. I'm simply going to remove that temporarily. There we go. And there's also one on the other point, which I will also do. You can't see that, but I'm doing it. Take my word for it. Yeah, there we go. And now, using the flat bit of the set square, i.e. this shiny bit here, I'm gonna wiggle it and slide it under the tie bar like so. You can see hopefully there. So now when I drill through that hole from underneath, which you won't be able to see, rather than the drill bit slipping through and ripping through the bottom of the point, it will hit the bottom of the ruler part here and not damage the point, in theory. So let's give it a go, shall we? Hopefully you could see that point moving there. So let's slide this out. I will put a screwdriver under there just so I can still see underneath. Carefully slide it out. Yes, it looks like it's worked. Some of the cork has, there you go, blown out a little bit. And yes, I can in fact see that there is a hole underneath the point. So I should be able to poke this other screwdriver through it and
if I get it in the right place, there you go. That's moving, which means that hole is nice and clear. So I can slide the screwdriver back out and put the track pin back in, which, because there's already a hole there, I can push in with my thumb, and that tells me that the point has not moved at all since I drilled the two outside holes. That's good. So now I will do the same thing on the other point, but film it from underneath. Right, let's give this a go. Line the centre of the drill bit up with the hole, and that didn't look good. That may have just lifted the point out of alignment slightly. Ah, yes it did. So I removed the track pin from the point. But because of the silver part, the point still isn't damaged. So we can get that out and have a look underneath, and you can see looks like there's some scraps of cork stuck under there, which I can, there you go, poke out. But the hole is nicely there. Now I just need to connect this back up again, because whoops. Okay, so point is back in. Well, okay, there's no damage to it. You can see it still works fine. A bit of a gap in the rail there, which I might need to fix later on, but we'll see how things run over it. Still in alignment. The track pin went through just by using my thumb, the same as this one did here as well. So now it's just a case of mounting the point motor from underneath and wiring it all up. So let's take a look at how I do that. Alright, so I poked the point through the point motor through the hole. Hopefully you can see I made a little green mark on the rod just down the end. It's about there. Hopefully you can see that with a green marker pen. I held the point motor under the track into the hole, held it and marked it with a marker pen, so I know how long the operating arm needs to be, so I can cut that off. Now the soldering of these point motors is quite easy. In fact, the instructions that come with it tell you how to wire it. So let's have a little bit of a zoomy in. Hopefully you can see this. Connections A, B and C are used to just change the points. The other connections you can see here are for electrofrog point operation. These are insulfrog, so I only need A, B and C. Nice and simple. Okay, so a slightly funky camera angle on this, but what I am doing, I'm now going to solder the various wires to the point motor. So if I hold it up to the camera, hopefully you remember from the instructions, connection A, B and C are the ones we need. So I have red and black wires for A and B, and then a green wire for C. Nice and simple. Tiny bit of flux on connection C, and also a tiny bit on the wire itself. You don't have to use flux at all. People do seem to freak out using flux. I don't necessarily know why that's the case, but sometimes it is for some reason. And then I'm simply just going to That's a truck outside. Very rude. Just going to solder it. There we go. Onto the various connections. Now I don't know how close I can get with the camera and still be in focus. That looks to be in focus. So get the iron the right way round, hold it over connection C. There we go, soldered already. Nice and easy. Bring that out a little bit. So hopefully you can see there. Nice and soldered. So now I will go ahead and do all the other ones. Get that out of the way. There we have all of the wires. Now, it doesn't matter which colour you put to which terminal at all. You can put black on the A side, you can put red on the B side, doesn't matter, as long as you keep it consistent between all of your different point motors. So let's work out how to get this installed. I need to find my screws. Wish me luck. Okay, keeping the same camera angle. These are the screws that I choose to use. They're just little tiny Torx bit screws. These are, I think, T20. Yep, T20 size. And these are incredibly short, as you can see, so they won't go through the 12mm baseboard top, and they are just about the right size to not necessarily push through the point motor holes, but they will thread into the hole nice and gently, so you don't crack anything. They are a tight fit. They are a hair or two over the size of the hole that's drilled into them, but as you can see, it is threading in there quite nicely. And then eventually it goes completely loose and spins forever, and that just means that it's in there, and that way the screw can't fall out when you're ferreting around underneath the layout. Okay, so both point motors are in, and I have just begun wiring up the decoder here, the point decoder. So as you can see, all I've done so far is attach two leads coming off the DCC feed connections. You can see the diagram there, hopefully. And then on the end of these leads I have attached or crimped some spade connectors, and then on my bus lines underneath the layout I use these little clampy things. Essentially, if I get in as close as I can with this, essentially the little blade here traps the plastic sheathing of the cable in it, and when you press down on the top, it cuts into the plastic, and the metal blade here comes into contact with the cable inside, and then when it's closed like so, you can then take your spade connector, oops, like so, and plug it in like that. And that's how I make connection to the bus wires. It'll be a bit more clear once we get the camera underneath the layout and get all this connected up. Alright, so we're underneath the layout now. You can see the point motors are connected to it. I haven't plugged it into the bus lines yet. I like to do that whilst the system is live. So if we pan up, you can see the lights on the Pullmans are illuminated, and my other point decoders are also illuminated. So I like to do this with this system live, so I know 100% if there are any short circuits occurring. If we pan up to here, hopefully in the darkness you can see the two crimp blade splicers here and here. So I will. I need two hands to get these attached. So I will do that now. Okay, they're plugged in, and there are no short circuits on the system anywhere. So if I zoom in, hopefully you can see tiny little switch in the top left. I'm going to flick that to the set position. And then up here on JMRI, I am going to open the, I think it's the panels, nope, tools, yes, the tools option, and turn out control. So that point decoder is in the listening position, so I'm going to select 12, and then I'm going to click that way, and that way. Now, if I go back down to the layout and change this little switch to the run position, hopefully, when I select the point, the throw option, they should change. Only one of them changed. Oh, there we go. So they appear to be working the wrong way round, which is rather curious. So throw. And then close. Throw. And then close. Okay, so what I've managed to do, I noticed that I had a DCC Concepts ADS2SX point decoder over this side of the layout, and as you can see, if you look closely here, you can see that I've got both point motors going into one of the output terminals, leaving the second one completely empty. So what I've done, I've wired one point motor up to this and programmed it to point number 12, and I have wired the other point motor up to this one as per it was before, also programmed to number 12. You can see here is the link cable. It's back to front. For some reason that makes a difference. I don't know why. It shouldn't do, but it does. So now both of these points here are the same decoder address, but working off of different point decoders. That's not ideal, obviously, but it seems to be working for the moment anyway. What if I have any issues, what I can do is remove this decoder completely and run both points into this decoder here, because this has the power to change 2 points at the same time. As per these ones here, each output has 2 point motors attached to it for throwing either end of the fiddle yard at the same time. So, in theory, I've got engine driver on my phone. If I throw point number 12, both of these points should change at the same time in the same direction. 3, 2, 1, and there you go. Give it a few seconds to build up the charge again, and 3, 2, 1, close. There you go, and they are working properly. So yes, that was a little bit of a ball ache, but it does work. So for now, I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to neaten all of this mess and put the point decoders back up, and also grab the cutting disc for the Dremel and chop the end of the point rod off there. I forgot to do it when I was installing it. I made the mark and then for some reason screwed it in place and forgot about it. So I'll get the cutting disc and lop that off. It won't take too long. And then what I can do, I can grab a train from the cassette storage rack over there and give everything a test and make sure that the points change correctly and that nothing derails. So let's get tidying things up and give things a test. Okay, so the next thing to do is to give the track a sufficient test. Doing this one-handed is not ideal at all, but it can be done. Almost as if I designed it to be done this way. Apologies for the shadows and the terrible focusing on the camera there. Hopefully you can see. There we go. So the switch with the light on up here, the only purpose of that is to tell me if the point is set underneath the town. So bring up the old phone. There it is. So I need to select loco 1304. Now I need to navigate to the turnout page, or points in this instance. I point 12. Well, I had something, so let's give this a go. Oh, I got the loco number right, so that's something. Right, that's speed step 16. Let's see. If it goes the right way. Should be about there somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, that's worked. Well, huzzah! Right. Let's put that point back. Oops. Don't know if you could see that or not. But there we go. Get that going a bit quicker. So, if we zoom along, zoom in, there is the junction. Oops. There's the junction there. And it looks like everything is working absolutely perfectly. And there's the proof of the pudding. Fantastic. Right. On to the next project now. After completing the point motor installation and associated wiring,
The next job was to solve a few running issues with the new locomotive. A Bachmann Class 3F.
Hopefully, from that short clip, you saw how the troublesome locomotive behaves. So let's have a quick look at the underside of its tender. So there it is. Now, hopefully you're able to see the complete lack of electrical pickups on this tender. There is absolutely nothing. You have the plug for the DCC signals. The decoder is inside the tender. The only thing that sits inside the locomotive is the motor. You can see the fly lead coming off the back of the loco there with the little plug on it, which locates, focus, which locates in that little bit. So what can I do to improve this? Well, the lack of pickups, that's relatively simple. Just do a bit of shopping, essentially, and buy these. Pickups from DCC Concepts. There you go. They're not in there. They're already out the bag because they're difficult to get a hold of, but there it is. That's what they look like. If the camera wants to focus, there we go. That's what they are, little tiny blue PCB with a hole in it and some, I think they're phosphor bronze, oops, sorry about that, bits, wiper thingies, really teeny tiny. So I've swapped the locos around. This is my Bachmann C class, which also had similar running issues, and if I get the angle on top, hopefully, I don't know how well the focus is on that, you can see that I've added the pickups to the tender and ran the wiring inside the locomotive, the chassis of the tender, and as you can see, the wheels still spin. Not very well, I must admit. These pickup springs do put a lot of pressure on the backs of the wheels, but with sufficient running in, you wouldn't really notice it once the springs of or the wipers, sorry, have been able to bed in a little bit. You won't have any rubbing issues. So, your turn now. Okay, so I managed to get it in there. It is one hell of a fiddle to get this in there. It's a bit mangled, but it's in there. Making good contact. So essentially, hold it in place, poke a screwdriver through the little hole to make a scratch in the chassis, and then screw it in, basically. And you need about 7 pairs of hands to do that, but it's in there. I took the middle axle out just to make things a bit easier, and I'll probably keep that out until I finish the internal wiring, which is the next job. So, soldering iron, time to earn your living, buddy. Okay, so if we get up close and personal with the inside of the 3F tender for a moment, I'll try my best to hold the camera steady with one hand. Hopefully you can see terminal marked R here and one marked L here. That represents rail right and rail left. And if I check the underside of this little circuit board, it does indeed connect to the rail left and rail right connections on the decoder socket. So the provisions are quite literally built into the locomotive for pickup connections in the tender itself. It's there. So again, I don't know why Bachmann took the wonderful decision to just not bother with it. It's literally there in the design. So that's where I'm going to make my little wire connections. Run it down to the pickup on the rearmost wheel set. I'll have to remove this metal plate thing temporarily. But that's how I'm going to do it. And that's basically the same way I did it in the C-Class as well. Okay, so that's done. So if I carefully show you, that's the underside. Hopefully there you can see the pickup on the left there with the wires on it, and then flip it over, and there you can see the little black wires snaking up the inside. Now you can see they're crossed over. That's deliberate. There seems to be a wiring fault inside the locomotive itself. I don't entirely know why, but I tried it with the C-Class tender, which is wired correctly. Short circuit immediately, but only when I put the tender on the track with the pickups on it. So that told me that the wiring in the loco might be backwards, so I've wired the tender backwards as well. It's not too clear from this shot, but you can see if I hold it like this, hopefully you can see there that rail right is connected to rail left and rail left is connected to rail right, and hopefully that will stop any short circuits from occurring. Alright, so then 3F is back on the track. Same direction it was running in the previous clip. Let me roll said previous clip. So that's what it used to run like. So let's give this a go now. It's going to be a bit stiff and juddery. It hasn't run in about a month, so let's just give it a go. There you go. Basically no issues at all. A bit of a stutter still, but it's basically still fresh out of the box. But that's definitely better than the way it was. So I'll get this running around off camera, and then we'll see if things improve. After a bit of tidy up and about 20 minutes of running in time, as you can see the 3F is running basically without fault. I did add a little bit of extra weight in the tender on the inside just to ensure that the wheels stay on the track and maintain contact. I probably didn't need to do this because the tender already has a small metal lead weight in the back of it, but I added some anyway, just to make 100% sure that there were going to be no extra issues. And as you can see, there are no issues. And with that, I could call both of these projects complete. Didn't really take too long to actually get the work done. Being ill for a couple of weeks didn't help things at all, but everything seems to be working absolutely fine. The 3F runs around
without fault, as you can see. And the track work changes I made in this video also work absolutely fine. So the next video that I do on Cowerbridge will probably be a full running session. I won't get that done in this video because this video is already about nearly an hour long and I don't want to take up any more of your time. So thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.